Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you and welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here to my channel, my name is Victor Sanchez. Welcome. I've been making videos about my build in Mexico, my travel in Mexico, and my life in Mexico when I'm there. And today I'll be sharing with you guys what are the retirement plans or the financial freedom that I'm going to be seeking as I get older. I'll be sharing that with you guys, what the plan is, and then I'll be sharing you a little bit of history of what my family did in order to secure their financial freedom and so forth. So based upon the experience of my family, and this is a route that I'll be probably taking, and just want to share it with you guys, that and a little bit of history. But before we get going, I just really want to say that I want to invite everybody to take a basically Christian perspective. A lot of people I know that watch this channel are not Christian, but I still think the advice is very good for everybody who watches. And basically, Jesus really tells us to not accumulate goods because honestly, like, tomorrow is never promised. We don't know if tomorrow we're going to live. Today, just driving, I pass away. So we have to plan for tomorrow, but really live for today, worry about today. So take it very lightly, but take it seriously. And as you get older, obviously start planning more and more ahead. So that's really something to think about, because even if you're not a Christian, I think that you can get carried away in trying to plan too much for your future and not living for today, not enjoying a simple place like this. Earlier there's some deers back there and just taking it all in or taking the things in, you know. So that's my advice to you guys and to everybody that's watching. So let's dig in a little bit. What is my family history? Basically, my family has always been the type of planning for the future. I think in some cases a little bit more than they should, because neither my grandfather or my dad are Christians, so I think they didn't have a refrain. And so they're really honed in on their financial security or freedom and the retirement. I think a little bit too much that sometimes they didn't get to enjoy today. However, they did really well, and that's the thing I want to share. It's just, we're going to talk about maybe balancing it a little bit. For a lot of people who do not know, you'll know today, the house that I'm building in Mexico has been mainly financed by my dad. That's how well he has been doing in his retirement, enough to be able to bless his children and still live very well with what he's been investing. So I want to just be able to share that so you can be encouraged that there is things that people are doing, or at least my family's been doing, that works really well. For my dad also, when he was 55 or 60, my grandfather gave him a house in life, not as a inheritance in death, but in life. So it's been passed on from generation to generation. And also from my grandfather, as much as I understood, they left him homes also. So it's just been trickling down. So it's a blessing if you can do that for your children. So a little bit what we're going to be talking about is also securing that a little bit for your children, because the idea here is that you're not going to use it all up, is that you'll still be able to leave some for your children, grandchildren, whatever, for their future. Okay, so what did my grandfather do? My grandfather was basically a manager of the fields here in the United States, and his mentality was to invest in properties. He bought and sell properties. He basically bought at one time at a good price and then sold them at a better price, and sometimes that takes years, but that's what he did. Then he bought properties that he could build on, and he also bought properties that he can build on and sell, and then properties that he can build on and rent. And that really secured my grandfather's future. As much as I know, he didn't have no needs. He died at 88, relatively good health considering, because he did drink a lot, so some of that caught up to him. But he lived well, very well actually. He lived probably better than he was when he was younger. However, he didn't live needing anything as he's younger. He worked really hard to be able to do both, as much as to bless my dad and to bless us. So that was his philosophy, is to buy sell, buy, rent. And so as much as I know is that he had about 30 properties at the end of the day that still to this day exist for my dad. My dad's approach was also to buy and sell properties, not as to that aggressively, but mostly his concentration was in stocks. So he invested in stocks. A lot of people do that now. He got somebody that can be advised and how to roll that money and so forth. So he didn't do it on his own, but he took the advice of the professionals. It was that risk. But he invested in that. He invested in the dollar. What I mean by that in Mexico, obviously, because the dollar was always gaining on the peso, it was good to invest on the dollar. You buy $100 today, and a year from now, it'll probably be worth 110, 120. So that's the kind of money that he would roll over every time, to the point where it was just every time it was investing more and more, and his principal was gaining more and more, because my dad's mentality was to live. What I said about it, he probably went a little bit too far, is that he was super focused on his future, which is really, really, really good. But a lot of times there was a lot more sacrifice than I thought was needed as far as living, okay? Because I remember there's times that we didn't have enough things, but I understand where he's coming from. I understand, because he's like, okay, you have what you need, but no more than that. I think in his mind, which is good, is that if you want the good things in life, you go make your life and go get it. But sometimes, like for example, it went so well for my dad that he ended up buying a property in a really good neighborhood in Mexico. And but we really lived like poor people. So it was somewhat embarrassing, because sometimes we didn't even have shoes and stuff like that. That's how strict he was. But I don't know. I'm conflicted, because I think it's good that we learned that. But at the same time, bad, because it was so hyper-focused. But it worked. It worked. And because of that, he blesses us. And to this day, he tells us, hey, if I wouldn't have done what I did, how can I bless you guys at your old age? And so I get it. The only thing I say is just balance it. So my grandfather, he did properties, rentals, and to this day, those exist and managed by my dad. So for me, it's a little, for what I want to do in my future, I'm not sure if I would want to do rentals, because it's a mess sometimes. I can see what my dad struggled with tenants destroying the property, getting them out when they don't pay, and just a lot of things with it. Some people it works really well. Some people just make a duplex where somebody lives in the bottom and they live in the top, or so forth, and it's easier to manage. And that works really good. But in Mexico, you don't get much for your rental. For example, if you do invest $100,000 and you make a small home, depending on location where you're doing it, I'm not sure if you'll be able to yield, let's say $800, $900 a month, because the rentals are cheaper. However, your property is going to go up, and that's where you get more money at the end. So it's a balance that you have to do. Okay, so what we're going to be focusing on is there's something called CETES in Mexico, called CETES Mexico. These are, I'll explain to you a little bit more in the next clip. I'll do it, we'll break down and everything, that you can invest in Mexico, where there is an 11.5, 11.757 yield off of your investment. So if you do invest $100,000, it's roughly going to give you $900 and something a month if you break it down. I'll break it down for you guys so you can see it. But for me, I think that's the route I would want to take, because stocks to me don't yield as much, and there's a lot of risk. So I think this is where the route I'm going to go, and that's why I want to talk to you, because a lot of people don't know about CETES and what they are, what are the risks. So we'll be talking about a lot about that. So stick around for the next clip. All right, guys, we're back home. Thank you for sticking around to this moment. We're going to be talking a lot about numbers, so hopefully it doesn't bore you, but it's necessary because as you plan your retirement, you have to do this. That's the headache part of numbers and planning, and If you can find somebody to help you, be great. But if you're by yourself or you are the main planner, hopefully this helps you. So we're going to dig in deep a little bit of where CETES. We're going to look at some websites that would explain it in more detail than I can explain it. Again, I don't know the whole 100% detail. I'm not a professional on this or a professional finance guy. This is just my suggestion to you guys in the way that I can support and give you ideas, because a lot of people know what CETES are. They can be worried about them. So let's look into it really quick. So first, this is the website that I'm going to be showing you guys. I'll be showing you a couple of them. This place right here is called Finanzas Públicas Hacienda del Gobierno de México. Okay, that's the website right here in the top left. You can see it has a lot of information. There's a lot of graphs that you can see. But what we're going to be looking today is what are CETES. CETES basically is a federal treasury certificate. It's not a bond, it's a certificate. It works differently. It's basically a discounted bond for investors to be able to invest. The difference between what I know of what a bond in here in the United States is that in the bond you can come in and out. This one you have to tie in your money for a period of a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. We'll look at that a little bit more carefully. So CETES are basically a federal treasury certificate. They're basically first issued in 1978, so they've been around for a long time. They've been pretty reliable. That's why we can say with confidence that they're pretty reliable, low risk. How much can you invest? I still don't know 100%, but I know there's people who are doing 100,000, 200 up to 300,000. I don't know any other people who are doing more than that, so I really wouldn't be able to tell. Okay, and then it's really hard to find that information unless I actually call in this stuff. But that's something that I figured you need to do on your own to figure this out. Their zero coupon bond, the year rate is reference to a discount rate. Basically, they're selling you discounted bonds, but they are called certificates. It's a way that Mexico can do loans. On the other website explains this. So why are CETES useful to investors? It's this part mainly. Okay, we won't go into all the nitty-gritty details because first of all, it'd be hard to explain, and then this video would be so long. So basically, it's a low-risk investment. They're issued by the Mexican government, making them a low-risk investment option. Investors essentially lend money to the government. Investors basically is you and me. We would be the investor. Or if we had some kind of big budget, we are lending to Mexico. But it's been reliable for them to pay back. They've paid back all the time since they started. So that's why it becomes a reliable way of investing. All right, so what is the website? The website that you can come in and invest is called CETES Directo over here in the top left. Right here, cetesdirecto.com. That's the one that you want to log into. It's super important that you know that you have to have a Mexican bank account in order to do this. I apologize if I drag it on to this point. I didn't think about it until I'm just telling you right now, but you do need a Mexican bank account to open CETES. But if you're going to move to Mexico, that's part of your plan, then opening the bank account is super important, in my opinion. You can also use it to transfer money from the United States over to Mexico and so forth, and have your own, basically, card in Mexico. There's other ways to do transfer and stuff like that, but I find it very useful. I use BBVA. I don't have that much in it, but that's the bank I have, and that's one of the reasons is to be able to use this, okay, in the future. So if you look here on the scrolling, just right here in the top, it says CETES 1 month at 11.25, and then CETES 3 months at 11.40. This is the more you invest, the more they give you. CETES at 6 months is 11.53, and then CETES at 1 year is 11.57. Obviously, the 1 year is going to give you the greatest yield, everything. So what I would do, or the planning to do, is, again, we're thinking about $100,000 our base for everything. I know people have less and some people have more. So if you have the 100,000, I would take a portion of it and invest it in the 3 months, and then another one in the 6 months, and another one in the year. The The benefits is that you can have your money available sooner if you need it. You don't have to wait. Because once you tie it in, you tie it in. You can't take it out. That's the whole problem with this. But the benefits are great if you can hold on. Maybe you can have money set aside for emergencies and money invested in this. You can do the two things. But the downside of doing it month to month or every 2 months is that there is a fee that you have to pay. A small fee, but there's a fee that you have to pay. And then taxes on top of that and everything. So we'll be looking at some of the details. The best one is always a year, because you want to be able to take that yield and plan it out through your next year, as far as how you're going to live more richly as you're in retirement. Okay, so this is the website you want to come into when you're ready to invest, and you need a Mexican bank to do it. Right here is the website that helps you calculate basically what would be your return on investment. I took the liberty of taking the 100,000 that is our base to the peso. It's $17 17 pesos to the dollar. Not $17, 17 pesos to the dollar, which would give you 1,700,000 pesos in a year. So you can have you can choose a year, or you can choose a month, 3 months, or 6 months. Okay, we take that 1 year, and here is basically what you would make. We're going to be focusing on a couple of things. Here's your initial investment. This is your interest paid out to you, which is this one right here. See if I can highlight it. And then this is what you're left. So you started with in pesos 1,700,000, and you end up with 1,871,000. So basically your yield is 199,421. I'll tell you what that looks like right now in dollars. So let's look at that page. So you started off with this. You ended up with 1,000,008. Your equity is 196,871, and then in dollars that would be 11,580. What I'm suggesting to you guys is that you take this and you take minus 4% inflation. I'll explain a little bit on that. You take it out of euro so you can roll it back into the next year. You have to continue to work that money, because if not, you're going to run out. So 461 goes back to next year's investment, and you end up with 11,116. If you divide that between 12, you end up with 926 per month. So if you're a person that is bringing in $100 or $1,000 for Social Security, again, I know there's people that have more and people have far less. Again, it's just a base to get an idea. If you're bringing $1,000 a month and you're looking into retiring in Mexico, you can rent a house, and or you can buy your house and use that money to live, which would be great, or you can rent a house and then try to live off of that. But it's complicated. If you use your equity, which is 926, you end up having a month of 1,926 to live with. That's kind of like the plan. It's not to spend the 100,000, but to make that 100,000 work for you as a check coming back to you every month. Of course, you get everything in one lump sum of 11,116, but the idea is here to divide it into 12 and only pull what you need for that month. Some months you want to pull less, you don't need it, but what I never suggest is to pull more. Live within your means. Okay, so you take this initial investment, now you're in 2024, now you have to invest back in 2025. You're going to take your initial 100,000 plus what you put in, which is 464 out of your equity of your first year. So now you're investing in pesos 1,707,880,000. What that would give you at the end of the year is 1,905,664 pesos. And what that ends up giving you, to try to make this shorter, is in dollars, you end up with 11,785. You have your initial investment, you have that 4% that you took out, reinvested it back into 2025, and you still have 11,314. What does that translate to? $942 a month that you can use per month. If the government is good and gives you 3% increase on your Social Security number, Social Security, you'll get $1,030 from your Social Security and $942 from your yield, from your investment. You're living in on $1,972. And so you do this every year. And this is what my pops did a lot and did very well. But again, my point is that you balance both. You try to live as much as you can now, but you plan for tomorrow. And the idea here is not to spend the money that you have been able to save. If you're cashing in a 401k, whatever, I highly recommend making that money work for you instead of buying a home, because you most likely will be able to rent a nice home, $500, $600, $700, and still have a lot more, because we're talking about if you do have $1,972 and you rent a house for $600, $700, it's a lot more than your Social Security, so you're still up $200, $300 more, even if you do rent. And if rent becomes too much, then negotiate or whatever it could be, move. All right, guys, so hopefully this information was useful to you guys. Let's click out of here for a second. Let me shut this down. All right, guys, thank you for watching that part of the video. Really appreciate it. Again, want to thank you guys for being part of the channel. Hopefully this information was helpful to you guys, beneficial. It gives you a different, perspective or something else that you can do as far as your investment. If you don't want to invest in properties, you want to deal with the building or buying and stuff like that, that can be a headache, and then manage it and stuff like that. So this is a good way. How long will this last? It's really hard to tell. So you'll have to adjust as time goes on, but you could take advantage of it today while it's there. And then if it's not worth it, then pull out and then do something else. I know that's, Lord willing, that's something I plan to do. Just keep looking at the ways that the market and the world's moving. So that way you can put your investment. Just be very careful and never spending that initial investment. That's the key. And always building on that initial investment so it's always worth more as time goes on. Okay, so if this video was helpful to you guys, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm of YouTube. It tells other people that it's a good video if you liked it. All right, guys. So I really appreciate your time. God bless you guys. Till next time.